Hello everyone, I'm Hammond. Today I'm going to be doing a little tutorial on Ableton Live Lite of how to write some techno. Now this is probably going to go on for a little bit this series, or probably a few episodes long, but I think it's time we jump straight into it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find a kick. Now I'm just going to use a good old standard 808 kick. Now 808s were quite popular in the years of techno, and I actually know a friend who owns a real 808 and it is amazing. Now I am using two monitors, which is why it may look a bit weird. Hopefully it doesn't, but let's just get this 808 pattern laid down. So with that, I'm just going to quickly randomize the velocity a bit to make it a bit more humanized. They're not that far. But you could also just make it so they've all got the same harmony, same velocity. But quick tip, if you right click inside a piano roll, you can then select what you want the fixed grid to be. So I'm going to select it to 4. So then we instantly have our pattern of 4 kicks. So we just have a quick 4-bar loop of an 808 kick drum. But saying that, we are going to want to put just a tiny tad bit of reverb on because of the fact that forgot to loop it. Because of the fact that with Techno there's always a bit of reverb. So if we just do our channel center, let me do it by doing that. We just use this knob here. This is Ableton's built-in reverb. We can now edit this to make it sound more like what we want. And first thing you want to do, it's already done it for us, but if you're ever going to use a send, you always want to make sure that the dry wet is set to 100% because it's a send track and not just put on it. And the advantages of using a bus over just inputting it purely onto the actual each individual track is, firstly, the reverb will sound the same across all the different tracks, but also it saves CPU, which is even better. But I'm just going to mess around with this reverb for a bit. Probably going to turn down the size a bit, turn down the pre-delay. Going to make it so the reverb is more on the high end. I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't see me pointing. But, so now we're just going to want to add our clap, which, if you click this little icon here of the headphones, it allows you to listen to piano roll. So we're just going to add claps on the offbeat. And we just want to turn down the velocity just a tad bit of the claps because they're a bit too loud. So if you hold down Alt if you're on Windows and then hover over the note, you can then drag down, change the velocity. So then it's a different velocity, so it's not as loud. Now, because of the fact that it's going to be easier in the future, what I'm just going to do is going to create a new MIDI track, and I'm going to get some nice hi-hats. We may use the one from the 808 kick, but I'm just going to have a look through the collection of Ableton's built-in hit hi-hats, and we're going to want a closed hi-hat for this bit. I quite like this one here, so I'm just going to drag that down here so then it becomes a hit down here, so it then becomes a MIDI so we can use it as a simpler. Because when you drag a audio file into a MIDI track, it would just automatically turn the track into an audio track. But we want to use a simpler or sampler, but the actual plugin is called a simpler. And with that allows us to play that hi-hat at different notes. So if we just create a new MIDI clap here, we'll then just kind of put in our hi-hat. So I'm just going to do a 16-bar roll for my hi-hat for the minute, just to see what it sounds like. That sounds okay, but the thing is, the velocity especially, it's very not human. So all we're going to do is, if you have Ableton Live, enable, you have this plugin called Velocity. Now this is a very good plugin because you can just put it on a track and you can change the velocity. So the drive here means how loud the note is going to be played. I'm just going to turn that down a bit. Now this random here tells you how much randomized the velocity is going to be. So this grayed out bit here is showing the random velocity. That's it on max. We don't want it on max, it's a bit... And you just really want to kind of mess around with this until you find out what you want. And there we go. So that has made the velocity of the hi-hat so much nicer and more humanized. So now instead of it just playing it as if a computer's doing it, even though the computer is playing it, it sounds like it's a human. Now we'll be doing a video on how to humanize your drums, but this for a minute is just the simplest way. And it gives it a bit of a swing as well. So now that we have our drums, claps and hi-hats, I personally want to use a percussion. So I'm just going to loop this and play this little beat until I found a nice percussion that will go along with it. So I quite like this sound here. So at its normal note, it is sounding like this. But that's a bit too high, so I'm just going to pitch it down by 1 octave too. Or maybe even... So I think we'll differentiate between and use both. But because of the fact this sample has got quite a bit of reverb, all we're going to do is we're going to go inside of Simple and we're going to get this little... We're going to put our mouse over this little triangle here. We're going to drag that just so we're getting the bare bones of that hit. And now we have the complete sample of how we want it. Now I'm going to say a very good tip here. If you don't know exactly where you want to place your percussion or anything, if you play along the track, and you pause it when you think you want to hear that sound, you just pause it there, and inside of Ableton, the pause bar will just stop, and then you just click it in. So I'm just going to play through this and find some nice place to put it. That's quite nice, but I'm just going to turn up the velocity a bit, so it's like around 100. Maybe a bit more. So that's quite nice, I'm quite liking that at the moment. So we're just going to go back over to the mixer tab, and to do that you can just hit the tab button on your keyboard and switch it between the two. So now inside of the mixer tab, I'm just going to turn up the amount of the send for the reverb. That's quite nice. So now we're going to get a delay down. So I am not a great fan of Ableton's built-in delay. So instead I'm going to use a plugin called Replica by Native Instruments. First thing you always want to do when you put something on a send track is you want to turn up the dry wet to 100%. I know I've already said that, but I just want to reinitiate it because a lot of people don't do that and it really ruins the mix. So if we just hit play now, and I put in a bit of delay. So all I'm using is a dotted 1/8 note delay, and there's different ways of doing it. I currently have it set to wide. You can have it set to ping pong. I prefer wide though, it just kind of is more what I'm looking for. I'm now going to set the delay mode to vintage digital because it gives it more of a techno-y kind of sound. I'm just going to put up this low cut a little bit. A lot of things in music you can't just be told. Always go by what your instincts and what you feel is good for the music. So here I'm thinking about doing a bit of a filter. But that's not what I want, so I'm just going to keep that off. So now we have our delay down. We're going to keep the reverb. We've edited that a little bit. We now have our basic drums all set up. And that is going to be all for the first episode. In the next episode, we'll be going over basses and chord progressions and then different types of techno we'll talk about. This is just bass bones techno. I personally write a lot of dub techno. I've really gotten into, a friend of mine owns a record label for dub techno. I've really gotten into the whole dub techno sound. It's beautiful, I think. But for the moment, this is what we've got. And next lesson, I don't know when that'll be out, maybe next week, we will work on a bass line. So I'll see you then. Have a nice day. My new song comes out on Friday the 29th of October. House on Ibiza. It's a lo-fi house song. Go check it out. There'll be links in the description to pre-save and pre-order it. Have a nice day. I've been George Hammond. Good day.